Welcome to the League for Progressive Seniors and Souls to the Polls Forum on the White Christian Nationalism. Thank you for coming this morning. I'm Pat Dunn. I am your MC. I'm a member of the League of Progressive Seniors. Our speakers today are Reverend Marilyn Miller, and she's our main presentation person, educator, minister, and consultant for anti-racist training. Dr. Miller is past president of MICA. And for those that may not know what those initials mean, that's Milwaukee Congregation Allied for Hope, and co-founder of Leading for Equity. We'll also hear today from John Jones, IV, who serves as a Associate Regional Minister of Education for the American Baptist Churches of Wisconsin. He is also as adjunct faculty at Carthage College in the Religious Studies Department at Central Baptist Theological Seminary. So without further ado, let's get started with the presentations.
How have we been together, and how have we not been together, right? As community, as a nation. I think a lot of people thought we were much further along than what we are when it comes to racial equity. We kind of got fooled. It was like a blanket was pulled over things, and we thought things were progressing and da-da-da, and then all of a sudden the blanket got pulled over and like, whoops. Woo! Who are we and what are we, right? The signs of Christian nationalism are all around us. From the increase in hate crimes to the culture wars and attacks on personal freedoms to the undermining of our democracy. But many people do not understand the connections between these incidents. And most people have never even heard of Christian nationalism, or they assume that it's Christian and being patriotic. Those are the two things that they think that they're combining. So the goal of this training is to provide you with the information and the resources that you will need to begin and maintain dialogues if you're in a faith community, organizations like this, to talk about what's the true nature of Christian nationalism. Now, as in all things when we present, we say there's many models, all right? This is just one. This is just what we put together, and working with some of our colleagues in the nation who are doing this work, this is one model. So what I need to tell you is you're going to get, hopefully sent to you, the full presentation with all of the videos. We only have time to do one video today, so we're going to do the first video because it's kind of like the cornerstone. It explains what white Christian nationalism is and how it acts in the world and who's involved in it, right? So we're going to show you this first video prepared by Christians Against Christian Nationalism. And then we're going to invite you to share with the people sitting near you some discussion, and John will prompt you with the questions that you need to consider and think about. So, yes ma'am.
Am I in anybody's way? I very rarely get to sit in the front row because I'm so tall. So I want to make sure everybody can see the screen here. Okay.
Okay, good. So this video describes Christian nationalism as a cultural framework that idealizes and elevates Christians to hold, and these people, many of them hold very conservative political beliefs. So although Christian nationalism has always been with us, it's become more prominent in recent years, with more ambassadors and accommodators of Christian nationalism crossing many socioeconomic and racial lines. So we're gonna see and hear about the surveys and the things that help them to discover where we are as a nation. So, thank you.
So, as we saw here, this ideology, this cultural framework that we're talking about here has been around for a long time, but it's grown in its influence and has kind of crossed some socio-political and cultural lines. And so what we want to do here now is for you to talk with someone. Talk to the person on your row, pairs or threes. We'll give you 5 minutes, and we want to know the question: what is something from this that either surprised you, challenged you, disturbed you, or moved you? Any element from what we talked about. And then what will happen is I'll ask for volunteers to share what you talked about, and we'll kind of let that move our conversation, okay? The Christians Against Christian Nationalism, christiansagainstchristiannationalism.org is the source for a lot of this material and plenty more that you can dig into. So, but let's really think about what surprised you, what disturbed you, what moved you, and then report back to the rest of the group, okay? We'll give you 5 minutes for that. Sounds like pretty good conversations are going on, and always hate as a teacher, I hate to interrupt good conversations. But I will, nevertheless. So let's have a few volunteers to share something, and you can share whether it surprised you, whether it moved you, whether it disturbed you, whatever the case may be. What emerged from your conversations? What really stuck out to you? Yes, ma'am.
I think find it hard to understand the right wing, and so this, if it's somewhat religious based, which I am not, so it's interesting information. It helps understand the thinking and who is behind some of the right wing activities, which I'm baffled. We're all probably baffled by that, so that it was helpful. It's
Okay.
scary.
Yes, understanding ideology is not the same thing as understanding politics. Others, yes, ma'am.
Well, I've already seen this because I'm a member of MICA and we had to be trained in it. But anyway, the two things the three of us got from this: one, the founders, they were sort of like hypocrites because they came over here escaping religious persecution, and then of course you know what they did to the Native Americans and blacks. Second, he made it very plain that you ought to be able to practice whatever religion you want, that as long as it does not involve violence, and even if you don't want to practice a religion, everyone should treat everyone like they want to be treated.
Well, that's a great point. As hypocritical as the Founding Fathers were, they did ensconce in the Constitution the First Amendment,
Yeah.
right? Which has to do with freedom of religion. And there's two parts to that.
Yes.
There's the Establishment Clause, which says the country is not going to establish a religion. That's one of the things that's going on here. But also the Freedom Clause, which means you are free. Generally speaking, I mean, it's a very, very broad constitutional freedom to practice your religion, whatever it may be. And right now, there is a profound confusion on just that amendment to use the Freedom Clause to establish something, to say that because my freedom somehow is impugned by me not being able to impose my religion on you is a constitutional problem. And that's what we're talking about right now. That's exactly what we're talking about with Christian nationalism. So I'm very glad that you pointed that out. I want to recommend Christians Against Christian Nationalism, obviously, right? But the organizing body, as a Baptist, is from the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Freedom. And one of their taglines is faith, freedom for all, which includes those with none, no religion, okay? And that freedom is a blanket freedom. And so that's one of the things that I get really animated about, obviously. So, but very, very good point. Other things that we wanted to point out from, yes?
The large number of enablers in percentage of the neighborhood.
And how they're distributed
Yeah.
across all of the lines.
Yes, that's another indication of how long this has been around and how much it is an ideology, which makes it very slippery. It's hard to kind of pinpoint. Good. Was there another one over here?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
I think our group, me and others, had different, because some people in our group thought that it was funded, and who was this funded by? And I personally believe that's not entirely what's happening, that this is a movement, and it's kind of sexy movement, you know. Let's join this, you know. So that was some kind of...
It's actually funded.
But-
It's very funded.
It ain't just no
I
movement.
do believe it's funded.
Sure.
That's not what I was saying. I just do
Been
not
here.
think, personally, I do not think that we can just target, you know, Koch brothers or whatever.
Right. No, that's great.
No, that's what my, you know, and that I think we have to look at it as a movement. And that, you know, some evangelical church over here, is what I said in this group, is throwing money too, you know. So that was one thing. And I think what was also disturbing is how prevalent it is, right? Wasn't that Peter?
How prevalent it really is. And for such a long time in the history of the United States of America, not just in Wisconsin or this part of the country. So, I mean, it goes back literally hundreds of years. And, you know, so.
Yeah, and there's something important to point out here that, you know, myself and the professor who did it, we teach religion, okay? We don't teach politics or sociology. So, but I want you to pay attention to that because of the mythology that is involved there. You can't, I mean, you can try to support a mythology with a funding source, but you cannot produce it. It has to be something that's in the water, in the system. And that means that it, again, is an ideology, a cultural framework, a way of seeing the world. And that is only challenged where it emerges, in the grassroots, where we're talking about. Another one, yes ma'am.
I think the reason it's so hard to deal with is because it is as much a cult as it is a religious or political thing.
And by using the term cult, you're saying that it's cut off?
Irrational.
Okay.
The way it acts
Yeah.
with people, right? It's like people get caught up in it and they cannot see any clarity. Right.
They can't see
Right.
it.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right, yes.
You know, my feeling is that all religions live in silos.
On some level? Okay.
And so you know, this has been going on for a long time, just to piggyback on what they say. So I don't see how this is going to change us, bring us together so we can talk about it. Because we live in silos, because of our cultural beliefs, I don't see how this is going to happen in my lifetime.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just have a quick question. The number of churchgoers in this country is declining,
Sure.
declining. But Christian nationalism is rising. And there's a dichotomy there. Where are they getting their information? And that's where we have to go to sort of stop it.
Again, we're dealing with an ideology. We're dealing with a cultural framework. And so it manifests itself occasionally in organizations, but it's deeply rooted in a culture. And so yes, church attendance is declining. There's been some debate about whether it is declining as rapidly in evangelical churches that are a primary source of some of this thinking. But there seems to be a lot of agreement that it too is declining. It is. And I will also say that there has been some debate, especially among us people who call ourselves religious and want to say, no, that's not us, damn it. To say, well, it's just it's not the real evangelicals. It's not the people who go to church. It's not the no. There's yeah. So there's been some discussion and debate, but the research suggests no, it is in the churches. It's supported by it, especially by people who are robustly religious, and that has an influence culturally even amongst those people who don't go anymore.
Right. But it's very insidious because when we talk about especially the evangelicals and you see that, I call it the over-the-top behaviors, what disturbs me more is the nice white people that sit in those churches and listen to this stuff, hear it, know it exists, but don't say anything back to the person who's spewing it right next to them in the pew. Oh, because we're afraid. You know, people don't, we want to be nice. Nothing is critically examined when we're nice. And so that's what is really, what we talk about y'all. Most of y'all in here in this room, that somehow you've got to figure out, you got to find your voice. You got to find your courage. You got to say, are you going to just say, on my watch, I'm just going to let this happen? We know it's scary to question people about why they think what they think and what. But if we don't, nothing gets examined, so they don't have to think about it. This is a part of it, right? It's like, if you don't disturb me, then I can just keep thinking this way. I can just keep acting this way. And so, yeah. So you got two.
I got one quick thing that I want to suggest to you. It was something that somebody said to me, because this can be very confrontational. We all know the situation of our culture in our society. But one of the ways that we can get there is through conversation.
Yeah. Right.
But the conversation has to start with a challenge. And there's 5 words. Wow, I don't see it that way. No, that's not 5 words.
Well, just say, I don't.
I didn't say it right because I stole it from someone else. But you see what I'm saying? When you start there, you're challenging it, but you're invited. Okay, if you want to come back and ask
conversation,
right? Yeah.
Conversation.
My thing is about it, there's also the element of religion.
Yeah.
And so if it's seen as religion, and we, I think as a country, as people, whatever, we're like, well, okay, I don't want to go there if it's your religion, if that's how you know, it's coming from that. So I'm not gonna challenge you on religious grounds. I don't, you know, I'm not really religious, but you might be, and then you hold those views, and then I don't want to take your religion and, you know, trash it or something. Right. It's just like you shouldn't have this belief.
Well, let me say one thing though, and this is where, again, I want to challenge my siblings who claim Christianity. Yeah. Because this is a big part of the bed that we sleep in, right? What Christianity are you practicing? So see, this is where we have to go. And this is where I'm going to challenge people who don't study their Bible, who don't know their theology, who don't understand the word. Preach. How you going to come and talk about something that you not really, it's got to be embedded in you. That's a challenge to us. And this is in all of these mainline Christian denominations. We don't even know our own ideology, religion that we claim. Well, if I know it, the Jesus in the Bible that I read about does not say turn away the immigrant, kick the person who's down to the curb, run over people, take as much money as you can from people, do whatever you want to do to people. That is not the Jesus of the gospel that I know. So you have to get down to the nitty gritty. What Jesus are you talking about? What is the teaching? So that's the religious part that we start to, and for those of us who claim Christ. But you know, you're right, it's hard when that's not your religion, right? Or you're not religious, or you don't practice the faith. But again, we get to go to the humanity of each other, right?
Let me put this to rest right now. All right, I'm from Michigan, and I had the opportunity. I'm from Flint, not Detroit, but I lived and retired from there. A Second Baptist Church is where the Underground Railroad took the slaves that escaped. Right there, it's right there in Detroit. Then they went to Canada. You can take the tour. On the wall, I do not remember the scripture, the name, or where it is. It says, no man shall be put in chains. Don't believe me, go see it. Second Baptist Church. So this whole idea of white Christian nationalism is based on a lie.
Two more comments. Yes, sir?
I would just like to build on what you said. I'm assuming by definition, anybody that is sitting here does turn to their neighbor when they make outrageous statements and call them on it. What we talked about was challenging the religious leaders. How come we don't hear from the Archdiocese? I don't know anything about the Lutherans and Baptists and this, that, but I'm somewhat familiar with the Catholic Church. Where's the leadership in the churches? Why don't they get together? Why don't they publicly stand up against this?
Money, 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 money,
Compromise.
baby.
Well, if we're talking about the Catholics, they got plenty of money.
Well, the rest of them is money, money, money. Because they're afraid to lose members.
Sorry, I'm gonna do two more. Last two. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, one of the things I was looking at, and I think the classifications that we set up there are maybe not nuanced enough, because there are classifications of no college education, some college education, degree. That totally ignores a whole other source of education, which is the minister in the pulpit every Sunday, and what message are they sending? And I think we really should look into that a bit more, because I think you will find, for example, you can say evangelicals, but the difference between the black evangelical church and the white evangelical church is huge. So I kind of wish someone would go through those analyses.
That's another level of analysis.
And evangelical is also on a spectrum. Right. So again, the whole, it's a lot of things we need to know and understand I always say it's like peeling back an onion, right? That's what we talk about. It's layers and layers and layers of stuff in this. Because you're right, it's all of that. And so, but if we don't want to read, we don't want to, we don't want to know anything outside of what we're comfortable with, we're not going to learn those things. And so that's part of our struggle. So, yeah.
Thank you for the enthusiastic conversation.
Yeah.
We have to cut it short now, so.
Yes, we have another speaker. Are you? You got
Thank you all.
Well, how much time do you need, Anita?
I just need a few seconds.
She don't need a lot of time. So we have until 11 o'clock. It's only 10:29.
10:29.
Okay. So we got a little bit more time? Yeah, so we'll
You don't
stop
have
at
to stop. All right,
4:02.
very good. Because
Keep going.
Yeah, we'll stop
this
at
young man back
4:02.
here has been very patiently waiting. Let's hear what he has.
Yeah, I would say it's not, you look worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Where religion tends to be dominant in the culture, these things happen. Certainly true in Muslim countries and Israel and other places where you have a dominant religion that's very tribal and does this kind of stuff. So it's a kind of, in some level, it's a worldwide phenomenon. There are specific issues in the U.S. that are different, obviously.
Very good point. It is a very human phenomenon. You can see elements of it. But one of the great things about this country is this First Amendment that I talked about. And it sort of forces us to deal with the question precisely in the way that digs into the idea of Christian nationalism. If we have the courage, we can deal with the consequent issues like racism that was made plain by the data there. Clearly on the issue of racism, whether there is significant police brutality or whether blacks face racism, there's different worldviews as a result of this particular way of understanding the world, the different ways of seeing the world.
Yeah, and this is probably some of the hardest work that I think white people have to do, is really address racial equity. Because, again, if that doesn't get addressed, all this other stuff gets to get held in place. Because what it basically promotes is white supremacy. Right. So if we're not willing to confront white supremacy, which means white people have to confront white supremacy. That is not my issue. That's not my job. Okay, I got a whole lot of other stuff I need to deal with as a woman of color in this world. But if white people, and this is where our struggle has been, a whole new culture has to be created. So when we talk about cultural phenomena, it's that movement that you talk about, there has to be a whole new culture created. That is huge work. But every single person can contribute to it. And it's person by person. And that's what we have to remember, because I think one of the dangers, and it's probably in any society, but I know in America, we always look for the leader. Who's gonna be the one, right, that's gonna lead everybody? Well, you know what? It might not be that one, it might be you. You start the movement, where you are in your institution. And every institution, each and every one of you has influence in institutions that you're a part of, places that you work, the organizations that you're a part of. Some of you are in religious bodies and you're practicing faiths, and I mean but it's a tremendous amount of influence in this room. How are you using that influence? Who do you ask questions of? Who are you in relationship with? And I want to say to this beautiful array of gray-haired, lipping people, are you in contact with your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren? Are you having conversations with them? Because don't assume that they get it and that they understand the complexity of this and where, because a lot of them are buying into that white supremacy. That's right. Because they drank the Kool-Aid too, in a lot of ways. They're afraid. They've been made afraid. Oh, we're not going to be able to buy what our parents bought. Oh, we're not going to be able to do what our parents were able to do. Oh, we can't let other people come in here and get, too much influence or whatever. That is all in the, so all of us have to be trying to figure out, wherever we go, whoever we're talking to, how do we get to interrupt this? Question it. Say, explain it to me. Yeah.
For whatever it's worth, the golfer who got arrested this morning, Scotty Scheffler, would be dead if he was black.
Sure.
Dead. No questions asked.
Yeah, say it again.
This morning, if you didn't see on the news, the #1 golfer in the world, Scotty Scheffler, was involved in a strange sort of traffic incident, and he got pulled out of his car. And Howard here said that, for what it's worth, if he were black, he would be dead right now. And so that's another indication of clear differences of the influence of white supremacy. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm really concerned about is Christian nationalism spilling over into schools and influencing children and CRT, all this stuff, because I think that they're all like related.
Very much so.
It's there. It's there. The school board races, look at the number of candidates that have come into the school board races to interrupt what's going on in the school, and that is here. So again, my sister, I know she talks about voting all the time. Every kind of voting that we get to do matters. And those school board races are critical, because those people are determining what's the curriculum, what's the books, what are the children going to get exposed to, how are the teachers and the staff going to be supported. And
trying to erase history.
Exactly. So yes, you're right. It's already there. We have to watch this stuff very carefully. We cannot just allow people, again, so even I tell people, my daughter is 42 years old. But I'm on the education task force for Micah, because Milwaukee Public Schools has to do the right thing by these children. And we can't abdicate, it's not my problem because I don't have any kids. And these are the children that are growing up in this community that then, when you see behaviors that you don't think are the best behaviors or uplifting, life-giving, okay, so who's helping them? Who's taking care of them? That's all of our responsibility, if we care about the people in our community. So yeah, it means we have to, I say, fight until we die Fight until we die.
But I also believe it's a level of trust. It's not only a
Oh,
level
yes.
of trust in here, it's a level of trust in politics too.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you talk about these people going to talk to their families and to their trust, then there's another layer
Yes.
that has to be peeled off,
Yes.
and it's called trust.
Yes.
Because I don't trust a lot of things that white people are coming to say to me because of my past experience, because
Yes.
of my culture.
Yes.
So if we don't have that level of trust, that's why I said I don't believe I'm gonna see this
Right.
in
Yeah.
my lifetime.
Yeah. We
Because
won't.
I know what I'm going through.
We
That's
won't.
why I talk about the silo of people
Yes.
that are in this community.
Yes.
So it's gonna be a lot of work.
Right, but that's what
for
I'm
this.
saying. This is we're not gonna see it, Anita.
Yeah.
All we can do is plant the seeds and tend to it the best we can right now. Do what you can do. This is what my challenge is to you all today. Do what you can do while you can. Right, but that's the work. So again, we don't have relationship with each other.
No, we don't. Right.
We're so segregated, and I'm sorry, good white people. You talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk. Some of you, I say, who's in your circle of friends? Who really is in your circle of friends that looks different from you, sounds different from you, don't talk like you, don't walk like you, don't live where you live? Who? Can you name 3 people?
Yeah, sure.
And if you can't, you got work to do. This is what I'm talking about. It means you got to get out of your comfort zone because we stay isolated, and that's part of our problem. That hyper-segregation, especially in Milwaukee and our suburbs, is dangerous. It's very dangerous. So we need to be real clear. We're all swimming in this stuff. Ain't nobody free and clear, right? And I say to you, you're not liberated either. White folks think they free. You ain't free. You're not free. Not real liberation.
Right way.
That's, well, and this is what I'm talking about. This is the work that we have to do. It is hard. I know it's not easy, but what do you want? That's the question. What do you want? Because what you want over here on this end, you have to be willing to put in the work and the effort to get it. Otherwise, you can't just wish it. So.
In the very back.
Yes, we have about 15 more minutes.
Okay.
We can continue this conversation, but I think you've talked a lot about conversations, having conversations. What are some of the resources that are available that could help with that conversation? Because it's not enough just to say, be more Christian.
Sure.
You see where that goes?
Yeah, right.
What are some tools that we have?
And that's the reason why this organization, Christians Against Christian Nationalism, started in 2019. Okay, so it existed prior to the January 6th riots. But when that happened, it was like, okay, do you need to see anything else? And so Micah in our We All Belong campaign is a local organization that you can support, and we've got some materials
Yeah, I
here.
gave some materials back there, so if you
Yes.
can pick them up.
Some
But
flyers
yeah,
and a
so
The
they'll,
brochure has some website information too.
right,
Yeah.
but the conversations, so there's these, what do they call, interfaith dinners,
Mhm.
right? Let's take, so those are opportunities to participate cross table with people who are not like you, who don't sound like you, who come from different religions. Opportunity. You have to be in conversations with people, right? I don't know where you all belong. I mean, this is the real hard work. So as a former pastor, retired, probably some of the hardest work I did was cross-cultural relationship building. Our congregation, this small black Lutheran congregation, predominantly black, we had partners. And one thing that I was very intentional about, we were going to have conversation. We met regularly. We did Bible study together. You have to build relationships. So I would encourage you all, who can you build relationship with? Because there's all kinds of opportunities. Somebody has to initiate it. Somebody has to follow through on it. So come on. If you want it to happen, you can, but it's up to you. right? And you have to go and listen and learn, and white folks, y'all can't be in the lead. I mean, that's hard for you. I know it's hard because that's the tendency, you want to be in the lead. No, but once you get into that relationship and you build that trust, because I mean, it just hurts my heart when I just hear the things that I hear between people. People from these congregations, I'm not going past 124th Street. I'm not going over there in the city. Oh no, you're not going to catch me over there. Really? What do you think we are? Who do you think we are? We're human beings just like you. We have the same wants, desires, wishes, hopes, dreams. You know, there's issues of safety everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And white folks try to pretend it's only in Milwaukee. No, it's not. If the truth be told and all the information came out, it's a lot of stuff to go on in y'all neighborhoods that doesn't get put on the 6 o'clock news.
Well, that's for sure.
Right? So I'm just saying. Yes.
We can sometimes talk about this issue and it seems so huge because we talk about big groups of people and big problems that are going on. But let's look at where we might be able to start. And for those of you who go to church, and as I do, I go to a church that is primarily white. And when you try and talk to somebody and you say, oh, the way I feel about this activity, or the way I feel, the way that you behave towards me, I have a problem with that. Instead of working on the problem, people run real quickly and say, oh, she's calling me biased. She's calling me prejudiced. And nothing gets resolved. So we can do it on an individual level and keep working up and up and up at our churches, at our place of work. We can do it there too. Just support a person. That's how you start the process, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's very important. It's a both and, I always say both and. But some of you came to the Jim Wallace.
One word before you say that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. As Pat's pastor, one of the congregations I serve is Central United Methodist downtown Milwaukee. The other is Luther Memorial in West Dallas, where there are very few people who are people of color. But in a congregation that has a unique opportunity, I say Central is one of those. I'm looking at two of my parishioners here. We have people of various hue. What are we doing in congregations where we have that kind of mix, no matter how small it might be? Are we having those conversations? When I was a young pastor, I'm no longer a young pastor, when I was a young pastor, we had regular dinners in our congregation and we talked about the current events. We talked about what was happening in the community, what was happening in our congregation, and what was happening in the world. Now, I discovered that that was weird for Milwaukee. I didn't know that, sometimes not knowing that stuff, and that's the way I was raised in a Christian Jewish background. I always thought we could talk about everything, and we did in our family. There need to be more families like that. And the church likes to talk about itself as a family. And so that's the way to be healthy family. And so I'd encourage you to think about that.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, because our time has to wrap up. There's a couple of books. If you didn't see the Jim Wallace, The False White Gospel, especially for people who might claim Christianity or just want to know more about how Scripture is used, how people are co-opting Scripture. That is a major part of what white Christian nationalists do.
That answers your religion question.
Yeah, and then the 7 deadly sins of white Christian nationalism is another really good read that people could, look at. But I mean, it's a lot to learn and know about. So yeah.
I just want to say, if you check your Bible, everything will be revealed to you the truth.
Okay.
I just had one quick comment. Just one quick
Last one. You want to hear the last
one? I developed a really strong left arm raising my hand.
I think one of the undergirding principles of white Christian nationalism is anti-Semitism.
Yes.
And we haven't talked much about that.
That's right.
And I think that, there are partnerships possibly with the Jewish community, but I think before that, we have to have a deeper understanding of what constitutes anti-Semitism and how much maybe we are just deciding not to notice that in our fixation on the white nationalists.
You're so right. I remember growing up, and I was reading about Anne Frank, I was reading about Mein Kampf, I was reading about how all of this was in our schools, and we don't have this anymore.
Well, the Christian nationalists, they're reading all of that history from a Hitler point of view.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I sure thank you all.
All right, thank you.